Welcome everybody to today's HR Forum. Our topic today is today's workforce is thirsty. They want it all. And how can HR prioritize engagement and career mobility in 2023? My name is Kim Littlefield, and I'm a partner at Keystone Partners. The goal of our HR Forum is to get HR professionals like yourself together so that we can learn about different issues and challenges and trends in the industry. We also want to focus today on the talent pipeline and why it is a business imperative. It's on top of mind to all of us, and it's becoming more of a challenge. Each of our experts on the panel has a goal for 2023 and beyond, and they're going to share their focus on upskilling, strategic workforce planning, and fostering internal career mobility. So during today's session, not only will you have the opportunity to listen to their stories, but we also encourage you to chime in and share your story. You'll have the opportunity to do that via the Q&A function. The chat will be disabled, but you can use the Q&A, and we will be monitoring that. Megan on our team will go through the questions, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can. So we have a fantastic panel. With us today, we have Anne-Marie Colehour, who is the Vice President of Talent Development at Ventas, which is a premier real estate investment trust and capital provider to the healthcare industry. Thank you, Anne-Marie. We have Kathy Gallagher, who is the SVP of the Talent Marketplace at State Street, which is a partner with institutional investors all over the world to provide comprehensive financial services. We also have Lisa Getta, who's the head of talent strategy at Starbucks. And as she says, they are in the people business, serving coffee. We have Michelle Fleur, who is senior director, talent development at Shawmut Design and Construction, which is an award-winning construction management firm. And then last but not least, we have Jennifer Tice, who's the head of talent management and learning at USAA, the military community's provider of choice for insurance, banking, financial products, and advice. So welcome to our panelists, and thank you so much for being generous with your time. So thank you, everyone. I also wanted to acknowledge, because we also have a full female panel, that today is Equal Pay Day for women. And it kind of made us chuckle a bit as we were on the prep part of the call that we're still talking about this topic. But here we are, and we should celebrate it that we are at this stage where we do have equal pay, and we're very grateful. So thank you all for joining the panel. We're going to jump right into the first question, which is about 25% of new employees leave within 18 months. Question is, how can we stop worrying about trying to keep them and actually take action and do something? So we'd love to hear from each of you what you've been doing at your organizations to tackle this issue. Who would like to start? Kathy?
You bet. Thank you. And thanks for this opportunity today. So, you know, what I think is really important, right, is that first impression, right? We have to improve the onboarding experience, make a great first impression, seek ongoing feedback, talk to those folks, right? And actually fix what's broken, hear them, and take that feedback, and whatever you can kind of adjust for, try to accommodate, because that first impression is so important. I think we have to use methods that and we need to communicate in ways that resonate with that population. So understand how the mechanism maybe for the 20-somethings might be different than the 50-somethings. And again, just be able to flex with that. And I also think a big part of it is just enhancing that whole mid-level manager training, helping them be better at developing employees and helping them to kind of commit to coaching them through their careers and just really helping them feel better vested. And then finally, from the employee perspective, I would say, making them feel part of a community, part of your team, part of a bigger team. Also, you know, encouraging their participation in employee groups and just making them aware of the bigger picture. I think are some of the ways that you can kind of make them feel part of it and be a bit more vested to stay.
Love the onboarding piece. Who else would like to comment? Anne-Marie, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I'll chime in addition to what Kathy included. I mean, I think so much of it starts even before they join the company, those new employees. It's so important that the manager reaches out as soon as the offer's made, but then if it's been weeks, to really stay connected to them and really let them know through that interest and excitement how important they are to the team. It's those little things that can make all the difference in really making the employee feel valued. At Ventas, we also have a company navigator. So each one of our new employees are assigned a navigator so that they can ask that navigator questions that they might not feel comfortable asking their manager, because it might seem like a silly question or like they're bothering their manager. And then that navigator typically will take them to lunch if they're in the same location, or connect with them virtually if they're not in the same location. And then Kathy talked about inclusion. I think that's critical as well. I mean, it's that 18-month stat you shared, Kim. I think really making sure that there's touch points at the first week, and then at the first month, second month, third month, really making sure that the employee is feeling engaged, that they have clear expectations and they understand what's expected of them.
I love that term, career navigator, because it goes along with what Kathy said about the onboarding, right? We're trying to navigate early on. Lisa or Jennifer, I'd love you to chime in on what you're doing at your organizations. Jennifer, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so USAA has definitely really invested in our onboarding. We actually redesigned it last year to be what we call New Eagle onboarding. It's a year-long process that we've been trying out. We really believe in that stickiness. We actually bring out folks in for it. That's really important for us. As we're coming out of the pandemic, we brought everyone in. We have 2 very robust days to connect our employees to their mission and the purpose of our company. That's really super important to us. So right at the very beginning, and then we've found ways, digital ways to help engage our managers with those employees throughout the year. And what Anne Marie was talking about, getting our pre-boarding site, getting them excited about coming to the company, and really talking about how they can invest in their careers at USAA. It's not just about the first job you get here, but how do we help you with that second and that third job, and getting them in at that very first moment that they said yes to us. They had us at yes, and we want to keep that long term.
So you're actually planting the seed for future jobs early on for that career mobility. That's great.
Exactly.
Lisa, love to hear your thoughts.
For sure. And actually, so a lot of what my wonderful colleagues have just mentioned about the onboarding. And for us, we also differentiate that based on, so within our retail stores, there's a specific part of that. Then if we've got other functions, the support functions, because we all support retail in our organization, right? So, and then the onboarding for that looks different. So it's customized to fit the partner and the level and where they are. But the other piece we do is we also, in retail, you kind of have to accept a certain amount of turnover, but we've created a partner community online that anyone that's been a partner, we say you're once a partner, always a partner. We literally say you are part of us forever. And we focus on, if you leave for any reason, you are always welcome back. And also add to all the things that everybody said, but the piece of, this is your home, when you tell us when you want to come home.
Love it. Talk about fostering community. Michelle, you're in the construction business, so I'd love to hear if you have anything that's different. I would imagine you've got your own unique challenges.
We do. A lot of it is very similar to everything that is mentioned, but the 2 things that I would call out, which I think is implied in what everyone has said, is we've really realized over time, I think for a long time, we thought about this as kind of the HR challenge. And so we've started being really intentional about this. This is a challenge and a need for the entire business. And so how do we kind of draw in and collaborate with the managers and with we have buddies instead of navigators. I like navigator way better. We're going to change that, Anne Marie. But how do we kind of, has to be a team sport. in kind of really understanding, what is it this person's looking for and how can we make sure we're all in it together and creating a really robust onboarding experience and beyond. And the other piece I feel like that we kind of overlooked for a while is like, how do we tap into our recruiters? Like they have such a wealth of information in that early stage and kind of understanding what this person wants. And how do we make sure that that doesn't get lost in the shuffle? And so we're being really thoughtful around like, how do we carry that thread so that it's like they told us once and they don't have to keep telling us over and over. And so we're keeping better track of that. But it definitely is a challenge and an awesome opportunity to get people excited about our values and our culture. And then how do we make sure we're kind of delivering that when people come on board?
It seems to be what you all touched on was getting people acclimated to your culture. And I attended a session last week where that was the biggest theme, is that people stay for the culture or they leave because they don't feel part of the culture. And part of what people are experiencing is a feeling of loneliness. So I'd love to hear, I know earlier on some of the prep calls, we talked about networking and how you foster that at your company so that you get people together. Can you share some of the ideas? Because, we've got this work from anywhere, hybrid, flexible workplace. All organizations are different on where they stand on that, but love to hear your ideas on how you're fostering that community. Anne-Marie?
Sure, I'll take it first. Going a couple of different directions. I think just from that loneliness aspect. I mean, we from a hybrid perspective, all of our corporate employees are in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Monday and Friday are the days they can flex coming into the office. But we were really intentional about setting those dates as a company so that we had people together. So that it made meetings more productive, it made time in the office more productive, and people had that sense of community and collaboration. Mental health is always important to us as well. And so I think making sure that our managers feel comfortable having conversations with employees if they feel as though an employee isn't necessarily feeling connected, and then just making those resources available to our employees as well. But collaboration and working with colleagues who are just as invested, just as engaged, and caring about the rest of the team is really fundamental for us. When we do lose employees, almost always one of the reasons they are one of the things that they wish they weren't losing, I should say, is that team, that sense of team and all of their colleagues. So it's something that we really are mindful of, and making sure that there's no one that feels lonely, so to speak. I don't know if that is answering your question.
It does. Who else would like to chime in on this? Such an important topic. The culture and how you get people acclimated. We actually have a question. Alicia, you want to take that one?
Yeah, we actually have a team that focuses just on that. They are literally called our heritage team because we are very strong and very much believe in our culture and our mission and our values of connecting to community and connecting people one cup at a time, right? So when you start your onboarding, no matter who you are, there's 30 days of training and education and understanding, that's some online, but also some through the people on our heritage team, that it's all about what's our mission and values, what's our culture, what's the stories that we tell over coffee. And then beyond that, we actually start most of our meetings with a coffee tasting. Not surprising, right? But that coffee tasting is one of our partners. So we don't call each other employees, we call each other partners. But the piece behind the coffee tasting is then it's hosted by somebody different every time. And during that coffee tasting, you tell your story. So the partners we connect over hearing the story of each other over coffee. And we do it for almost every meeting we have. It's a lot of coffee. I've learned, don't think.
A lot of coffee. A lot of coffee.
Kim, I can piggyback on that, but we don't have coffee.
I'll send you some.
Thank you. We do, however, have 2 Starbucks on our San Antonio campus that are well attended. I will say that, Lisa. At USAA, we have that strong mission and purpose. We serve those who serve us. And with that strong mission and purpose, I think that sense of loneliness helps abate, because we start many of our large meetings, all of our large meetings, many of our medium-sized meetings with mission moments. How did we help a customer? What's that military story? Why are you here? I was telling the colleagues earlier, many times we have to get out the tissue boxes because you're just so moved by the generosity of human spirit in this climate that we have, where everyone does come together. We're a hybrid workforce. We have remote employees, we have hybrid employees, and like everyone else, we're figuring this out, and we're coming in, 3 days a week, because we do believe in this mission and this purpose of bringing our folks together. And we really appreciate that. And like Anne-Marie, like we're figuring this out, we're learning through it, and people love to be together at USAA. They have that strong connection. We celebrated recently somebody 22 years at USAA, 30 plus years at USAA. So we do have that strength. And I'm very proud of our wellness group. My colleague who runs Total Rewards is phenomenal, and the work that that wellness team has done to help with and a light on mental health and how to help folks with that. Really proud of that. And I think that's important for a company to recognize. It's just as important as our physical health is that mental health piece, and putting a focus on it and a spotlight and making it something normalized. I'm really grateful for that here at our company.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just love to just jump on that, because I do think that's one of the really positive things from COVID, that gratitude, wellness, and so forth, and in the culture that makes me proud that the company has invested in that, and it wasn't just for a couple of months; it's our new normal. So being able to get different types of wellness activities, whether it's yoga or stretching, or a community talk about parenting, or maybe it's about exercise, or maybe it is about mental health, right? There's such a variety. And I just think being able to see that consistently offered, and it wasn't just a one-off, is how you actually impact the culture, and you show, real ways of making an impact. And the other thing I was sharing with Kim is we have this thing called Thankful Thursdays, and just trying to make that, maybe it was awkward for a little bit, but knowing that you have a platform to kind of just acknowledge your colleagues, in addition to the rewards programs that we have, the more we make that normal, the more it becomes a little bit more comfortable for people to participate, and you kind of feel great about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I love the thread that you have here on the wellness. Michelle or Anne-Marie, do you want to share anything that you're doing in that regard? I call this the good that's come out of COVID, right, Kathy? Because it wasn't the norm in a lot of our companies. So anything that you've done that might be a different approach to take care of the mental well-being of your employees?
Yeah, I think very similarly, we have, spent a lot of time looking for those opportunities to kind of take advantage of what we have through our benefits, like helping to equip our managers to feel more comfortable having those kinds of conversations, just checking in with people. I think especially during COVID, recognizing it doesn't have to be all about the work, but how are people doing with everything going on has been, I think, a skill that we've tried to develop with all of our managers, to really hear that it's, we're, especially when we were at home 24/7, it was the needing to create the space to have those kinds of conversations so that we could really be thinking about people's full selves. So I totally agree with you, Kim, and everyone, that, that positive recognition of, like people are their full selves. And I think we've also done a lot of work both on the our culture is huge around safety as a construction company. And we've also realized that a part of safety is all of this wellness work, that creating the psychological safety, creating kind of the emotional wellness, as well as the physical safety, is equally important. So I've been really proud of our safety department that, again, they haven't just been thinking about job site safety, but they've been extending it much more broadly, which I think has really resonated with so many of our employee owners.
Thank you. Lisa or Anne-Marie, anything you'd add to the wellness aspect?
Similar to what everyone's saying, we have a team that's focused on mental health and wellness, and for us, it's we've learned that we have to start, right? So leaders have to be the ones that share things and are transparent about it, so that it makes it okay to talk about it. So all the things that you're talking about, I think we partner with a mental health, and everyone gets 12 sessions for free or some number of sessions, which we've been increasing through COVID. And to your point of all the things that have come out of that, that's one of the ones that's actually a good thing that we're doing. But we are also just very much making sure that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to say that you're struggling.
And to Michelle's point, this culture, the onboarding, the culture, inclusion, the mental health awareness is really not an HR problem. It's a company problem, right? There's a couple messages coming into chat that I would like to try to dig a little deeper in on. When people have a work from anywhere environment, do you have any more tips on how to acclimate employees or partners to the culture? Anything that you've done to get them a little more acclimated when they're working from anywhere?
I mean, I'll start. I think one that's kind of maybe obvious, but it's actually embracing putting the video on during calls and actually, being honest about that too, whether you're dressed up, dressed down, your house looks great or it doesn't, just making that become a norm. It just, it creates the ability to have the body language and the expression and, meet people's puppies and things like that, which, I think that's been a bit of a culture change, is making that normal instead of the exception. And then taking full advantage when you are in the office, try to plan ahead for it so that you're having meaningful, touch points, whether it's a meeting on a serious topic or it's a meeting because you haven't met some people before, things like that. All of it's important, but having a little bit more intentionalness. And then final, I'll just say, and then because we're such a big global company, being able to handle in office and not in office at the same time and try to make it a cohesive experience for everyone, and being again, trying to do your best and being aware of it so you can kind of course correct while it happens and not, regret something when the meeting's over.
I'll piggyback to that, Kathleen. I feel like a big learning for us was kind of that awareness of kind of being ready regardless of whether you're in the office or remote, and how do we make it inclusive for everyone. And I think our, early days, it was definitely like, oh, we're paying attention to the people who were in the room and forgetting. So several of our meetings, we actually had just talked about our HR team, like moving to, hey, we're going to be, even if we're in the office, let's join from Teams so everyone can have a square and it's more inclusive of the people who are always going to be remote. So definitely we're trying to be more thoughtful and intentional around that.
Anne Marie? Oh, go ahead, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Oh, you made me think, Michelle, with our team, because we have a mix of hybrid employees and remote employees on my team. And one of the things we've embraced is the different types of technology that we have, like a mural, and doing some of that work ahead of time before coming to the meeting, I think has been a really great learning for us. And, the same techniques, but just utilizing some of that technology that we have already in-house in ways that helps folks be included and actually makes our meetings, when we do have them or when we are in person, much more productive.
So I don't want to be repetitive of what anyone else has said, and I think there's a lot of commonality to what we're all doing. I think in terms of what potentially hasn't been said, or what I think is really important from my perspective is our executive leadership team was really intentional about working through those set days so that we could have everybody together. I mean, that was an intentionality from the beginning. When we think about it, I can't believe it's been 3 years, but you think about, do we shrink our footprint? Do we hotel people? All those things were scenarios that were looked at. And at the end of the day, it was determined we don't want to sacrifice that culture of being together. Yes, we know people can work. It isn't a matter of trust. It isn't a matter of FaceTime. It is really truly being able to be together, but also fully appreciating that people enjoy the flexibility. So to what Jennifer said, I think it was Jennifer, it might've been Kathy, give people a reason to want to come in. I mean, I love coming in because I hear people laughing, or I see people standing together looking over someone's spreadsheet on the computer, and they're all talking about it together, and you're getting the benefit of just that energy of people being able to, just like we are on this group, being colleagues who feed off of the energy from one another, but having it be an in-person type of arrangement. I know it's easier said than done. I feel for companies who set it up as come in when you want to and don't come in if you don't want to. I think that's a really hard position for people to try and bring back the culture of being together. But I can't think of anything else necessarily that comes to mind that hasn't already been said.
Thanks, Anne Marie. So there's a statistic that came out at this seminar I went to last week, and it said 53% of people will never work for an organization that doesn't have some type of work from anywhere policy. And 86% of working moms and dads will leave if they have an opportunity to have more flexibility somewhere else. So one of the questions that just popped up in the Q&A is, how has this impacted, requiring people to come in certain days? How has that impacted your recruiting and retention efforts, if at all? Lisa?
Yeah, so it's funny because we just called it back to the office. I think it's 2 months ago in January. Before that, we were doing what Anne Marie said. If you're in the Seattle area, then, feel free to come in. And then it was okay. And we viewed it more as change management. And then we're like, okay, but by the end of January, we're going to ask you to come in 2 to 3 days. And there were some people that were really not happy with it at all. And even though we're so close to our culture and have such a strong culture, there's other aspects to it. So part of what we've done is we've created personas. So you go online in your profile, you look at what the persona is. So I'm actually based out of the Chicago area. I'm in Seattle probably 5-6 times a year, but I also support retail and travel to all of our regions. So mine is actually a hybrid partner that travels. So it just depends on the function. It depends on what you need to get done. It depends on all those things. So we wanted to give enough flexibility, but also say in the Seattle area. The problem is, if you want to recruit in Seattle, we've got a lot of competition, Amazon and everyone else for very big talent. So our recruiting team is also looking at it for, okay, when do we say it's okay to be remote, to be hybrid, to travel? When do we say you need to be in Seattle and be located here? So we are still refining all of that on a regular basis. And it's looking at some of the guidelines that we try to follow. And at the same time, doesn't make sense. Let's just be realistic and practical about it. Doesn't make sense for us as a company. Doesn't make sense for what the market has in talent and where they're located. Doesn't make sense for our partners and the people that we're working with. So it's an ongoing day-by-day evolution for us.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other thoughts on this topic? The impact on retention or your recruiting efforts?
I'll add, as a construction company, obviously a huge part of our workforce is, I'm sure Lisa with you, it's in person. And so we are always, I think, trying to do both, be very sensitive to our employee owners who need to be in the field, need to physically be there getting the work done. And we want to be really flexible. And so we really are trying to, and even before COVID, tried to kind of center it around what's going to work for the team and what's going to work for the business and balance that as well. What's interesting is, through everything, we've definitely gotten feedback from people like, we need more clarity. We want more specifics about what do you need. So we've tried to do a lot of the stuff. It is a work in progress. We've tried to do a lot of the stuff. Let's have anchor days. Let's make sure we're having conversations. It's definitely not easy to kind of figure out that right match. And we have seen, we've definitely seen the uptick with our recruiters of people asking, is there full remote? Is there full, so we try to talk about like, listen, we have big components of our workforce that need to be on the site. And so depending on your role, I think very much like Lisa said, it's like you got to figure out what makes the most sense. And our culture and that connection is a huge part of what makes us special. And we don't want to lose that. So I think it's trying to walk that tightrope and also provide clarity, but without being too exclusive, like we're open to ideas.
Love it. Open to ideas. Any other thoughts on this topic? The impact on recruiting or retention?
I think there's, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Kathleen, please.
I was just going to say, I was thinking of a positive thing is it's really opened up our ability to kind of think about a job, and does it have to be in a certain location? So now that we can flex and we can execute from everywhere, maybe there was that perfect talent in Luxembourg, but we just never considered them. But the job's based in London. So now they're in the same time zone and other things. It just opens the door to talent maybe we didn't consider before. And I think that's just a positive kind of outcome from this for sure. It gave us a bigger breadth of talent to tap into.
Right. We all have a bigger pond to fish in, if you will. Yeah. Not just based where our headquarters is. How has it impacted innovation, do you think, working in a hybrid model? That's another question that just popped up. Have you, you're talking about some really creative ways to get people together remotely, digitally, and face-to-face. Any thoughts on how to keep that innovative spirit alive, the creativity?
I think
oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
I was going to say, I think that, and what I've experienced is you have to put that out there and have that as part of your culture, right? To have that innovative culture and having the folks together, setting the tone, because we are hybrid, right? And putting that out there, but also, like I mentioned, giving some of those tools and techniques and allowing folks to contribute both ways. Our new Eagle onboarding had to be put together when we were actually in COVID last year. And so we were able to use different types of technology for folks to collaborate and be innovative. And now that we're hybrid, being able to use both and bring both in, I think that key is that flexibility piece that you talked about, Kim. We're not stuck in one way or the other. We recognize the importance of our culture of bringing people back to the office and have them in, and all the things that Anne-Marie was talking about. And also now we have all this rich ability of digital capabilities that we now can also bring to bear. And I think that just actually makes us more innovative now that we have more in this field to utilize.
Anne-Marie, you were going to tap onto something Jennifer said, I believe.
Yes, I mean, I love that perspective, Jennifer. What I was going to say was, I think, it's being mindful of, no matter what the situation is, that there is an expectation of innovation. It might be harder, but and different panelists have mentioned this, but just to explicitly say, so much of it is dependent on the manager and the management team and the executive leadership team, that if you have clear expectations that you're getting people to feel included regardless of location, regardless of technology, and fundamentally you have a value or a expectation of innovation, then it's just engaging explicitly on how can we be innovative, what are the barriers, if any, to being innovative, and it's really just allowing time to talk about it. And it's about having that brain space for thinking and having discussion, and asking people's perspective. I don't mean to give the impression at all that it's easy. I think leading and managing is one of the toughest roles there is in an organization. But innovation is critical to our success. And so you have to be mindful of how you can continue to get people to feel as though, regardless of the setting, you can be innovative.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add, it is, I'd be honest and say it is more of a challenge, because you have to kind of, prepare for it, know which days we're in, out, and so forth. So, but I think it's definitely surmountable. I think you have to get people adept with the new tools and the new techniques, right? So there's a bit of training. There's also, not everyone's a born facilitator. So how do you build up those kind of skills that make innovation and kind of ideation happen and flow? And how do you manage just the different combinations, whether some on screen, some in the room? And how do you make people feel that energy, right? How do you get that going again? And I think that's it. I think it's just maybe it's like a skill that's just been on the back burner, and we just had to all kind of get that skill going again, get that muscle going again. So I think all the, the things are in place to make it happen. We just have to make sure folks feel that they can do it, are trained, they have the tools, and have them have some successes and make some noise over the successes, so that motivates them to do it again.
So in that spirit, since so many organizations really need to retain their talent and, still struggling to acquire talent, what are some of the things you're doing in your organizations to either engage them further, develop them, move them internally? Love to hear some of the ideas that you've had at your company.
I'll chime in. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking though, so find me a piece of duct tape if I'm talking
Yeah.
too much. Virtual. I would say, it's just a matter of, oh, was that a sneeze, Lisa?
God bless you.
Bless you. I think it's a matter of, I'm trying to figure out, somebody else chime in while I'm figuring out how to get my thoughts together.
Go ahead,
I've
Michelle.
Yeah, I'll go. So one of the things that we're doing right now is really like we've had a lot of tools for quite an amount of time around career development. And I think it's actually repackaging and reminding people of like all of the stuff that we have. We realized kind of like if you weren't here to get the email, it kind of goes out of sight, out of mind. And so we have our performance management cycle. And as a part of that, we have career development baked into kind of each component within our cycle. And then actually right now it kicked off on Monday part of March is like a reminder spotlight of let us remind you of all the tools that are out there. Let us remind you of how much, absolutely you own your own career, and here are things that you can use and leverage. And here are the ways that you can find them. And here's, what our goals are for what our managers should be bringing to our employees to have these conversations. So just kind of like, again, reminding people of what we have in place, because as new people are constantly cycling through and as we have new managers, it's easy to lose the thread. So that is a big thing we're doing. And a key part out of that we've gotten the biggest reaction from is we share career journey stories. And so really spotlighting people within the organization, especially, those who have really kind of grown and taken multiple steps, like you mentioned, Jennifer, really highlighting like, here's how they did it. And then that creates a model for other people to realize like, oh, okay, if that person was able to do it and here's the trajectory that they took, then I can put myself in those shoes and learn from that. So those are some of the things that we're doing.
So sort of that
Kim?
tell them again mentality so that they finally get it. Jennifer, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to figure out how to put this succinctly. So we're really focused, especially this year, on career mobility. So last year we focused on putting together, I call it building the foundation. Here's all the content. Let's understand what we need. So the team really focused on that last year. And now that we have all of that, we have all the things that we need to decorate the house. Now we're actually decorating the house. Like, how do we get a member services representative? How do we bring them through that career journey, and where would they like to go? And what are those different skills that they need? And so the team is really focused on career pathways right now and how we create that for folks, because here's what happens. We heard loud and clear, okay, I need something. We talk to them all the time. Like I hear everything. Now we're hearing, wow, there's so much, where do I go? And so creating that pathway for them. And we also created space. So we gave everyone 8 hours per quarter for development. We're so excited about that. And people are actually using it and excited about it. And so we're giving them time to also not just invest in their current career, but also professionally develop where they'd like to go, and aligning that then with strategic workforce planning this year to say, and here's where we need you to be. So it's not just development for development's sake, but actually merging them into what do we need from a USAA perspective? Again, going back to our goal is we're always reskilling and helping our employees stay with us.
So you're really merging the employees' career goals with the needs of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we can create that Venn diagram, We believe that's a win-win for our employees. And I won't say because we will do this because we have everything we need. And now we're putting all of those things to bear together to make that happen.
Thank you,
Oh.
Jennifer. Lisa, you have I know quite a bit of upward mobility at Starbucks. Could you share with us what you're doing there?
We do. I just want to also call out Jennifer's statement about the Venn diagram. We literally have a slide that we use that is exactly that Venn diagram you're talking about of, are you ready to compete for a role? And where does the business have the need? Like, how do those overlap? And that sweet spot in the middle is not easy to find. So let's work on it and be intentional about it. And then I also wanted to say that in addition to all the things you're talking about is we have started this year, we heavily are investing in using Hogan, but we had it customized to our competency models and then we're also rolling out a 360 that matches it so that from a leadership skills perspective, we're really investing in how do we help you understand who you are and how you show up and how to be the best version of you as a leader at every level from store manager all the way up. So we're doubling down on using assessment for development at every level, in addition to all the things that you all are talking about. And we're also looking heavily at that pipeline from the piece of how do we make sure that we've got the strength and the bench that we need? How do we know if we have the health in our succession planning? And so we're always looking at the succession health side of it and developing towards that and being very intentional of when we see a blank spot in the bench or a weak spot in the bench or the pipeline,
Right.
we go after it. Like we just target it in addition to all the things we're talking about.
So it's in the forefront and you're always looking at the metrics and seeing. Anybody else have anything to add to what Jennifer and Lisa have shared?
Yeah, I think I will. Sorry, I'll be brief, Anne Marie. I would just say it's kind of that balance, right? And being able to see the employee's skills and experience, but also their proficiency and having it be kind of reasonability tested, right? What they might say and what they are, right? So then we have a better idea of what is that supply of talent. And then as everyone has described, it's just getting closer to not just what do I need right this minute, but what are those skills, experience, and what's the gap? And make sure that your learning program can flex and actually adjust to creating trainings that fit those gaps. And then also very important to just look out the future. So you're not just trying to solve for the next 3 months.
Mhm.
Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate that. And Anne Marie.
Sure. A couple of different things that I would add, and thanks, Michelle, for bailing me out a minute ago. We do the career spotlights as well, and I think to try and get it from various angles, because employees read different things, they take in information differently. So whether it's an email or whether it's on your website or whether it's people talking through it. So we do leadership development workshops, and we have people who are talking about their Ventas journey so that people understand from a person rather than HR, but from an actual person that it really has happened. So those testimonials, if you will, are really important. We also do a lunch and link with leaders program, and this is for our new employees, and it's senior leaders within the organization. We do it once a quarter, where those new employees have the opportunity to go to lunch, to sit at, we start off with a large group networking, just getting to know each other and mingling. And then we break off into small groups where there's probably 6 to 8 people per table. And the leaders and the new employees can either free form conversations, or we have questions on the table for more of the introverted or people not sure how they want to start off their conversations. But it's just a really informal, casual way for new employees to feel included and understand from talking to those leaders what their career paths may look like within the company. And then I would just add to the importance of arming managers to feel comfortable having career conversations without having all the answers. Right. Because there isn't a one size fits all. But most employees, at least I have found, are hungry for that career conversation, even if it's just to say, I'm perfectly content in the same role, but I'd like to develop X, Y, and Z. And so absent a manager feeling comfortable, at least facilitating that conversation with the employee, I think can really end up being a retention risk. The manager doesn't need to know everything. They just need to be able to know how to start the conversation.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of employees who don't feel comfortable speaking up, back to the psychological safety, right? They don't feel comfortable speaking up about their ideas about pursuing other opportunities within the organization because they feel that then they'll not have a good relationship with their current manager. And then managers don't necessarily want to broach the subject because they don't want the employee to think that they don't want them on their team anymore, or that they don't value them. So I'd love to hear, how do you help managers have career conversations? What are some of the things that you've done that have been successful?
Well, I know I just spoke, but I want to, if I could, elaborate on one thing that you just mentioned, Kim, and that's the power of the leaders themselves talking through it. So we had a leadership team meeting where a number of people said, hey, I'd much rather lose someone to somebody in the room than external. And it's just such a basic concept, but hearing leaders deliver that message instead of HR delivering that message just resonates so much better. It pains me to say. So to have the leaders talk about that they want to share talent, that they don't want to hoard the talent, that they want to give employees opportunities, that it makes them as a leader feel really successful. It's getting people to talk through that and just really making it part of the everyday culture that is going to let people understand that it really, they're walking the talk, so to speak.
That is accepted. Michelle, you were shaking your head, so I'd love to just get your thoughts on this topic, and then Lisa will go to you.
Yeah, Anne-Marie, I so agree. It just really helped, like having the leaders, it goes back to kind of realizing we're all in this together, and there's a challenge. We care about our talent. We want to kind of keep them engaged. And so like having those conversations about like, what can we do together? I think is so important, because you're right. When it comes from those senior leaders, it's just, again, not to be repetitive, but it's everything Anne-Marie was saying. I'm like, I agree. And I will share, and it's how we started partnering with Keystone. We actually brought Keystone in and did some conversations to help our senior leaders feel skilled in having engagement conversations. And because you hit the nail on the head of, I think that a lot of managers, they get nervous that they don't have all the answers, that they may not be the decision maker, that they can't make a commitment in the vacuum. And so helping them to kind of be, comfortable with, like, it doesn't hurt to just find out what they want. And then we can maybe figure out some solutions for it. And we can connect that to where we need to head in the future and how to train people up. So just really resonate with everything you said.
Thanks, Michelle. And I didn't even pay you to say that. Lisa, I want to get your thoughts because I know Starbucks, you just have this vast workforce and just all, entry-level people. So love to get your thoughts on that.
So many different levels. It kind of goes with everything that Anne-Marie and Michelle were just saying of the leaders need to be having these conversations, right? And we're fortunate enough that our approach to this is, what does the partner need? And so, but we also realize that we need some structure and process behind it. So part of my role is on a quarterly basis, there's for me and several of the team, I'm like, how many of us are there? Where we actually are facilitating talent discussions, whether it's succession planning or otherwise, and all of them have a component about what's the development conversation you're going to have with partners when we're done. What's your commitment to what's that look like? And if it's something outside of your area or outside of your function or anywhere in that part of the organization, who are you going to introduce them to so that they can go find out more? Because part of it is they don't necessarily know, right? If somebody's in finance and they want to go to tech, or they're in data and they want to go, right? Like there's shared skill sets, but they're like, well, I don't know. And you're like, you don't have to know, to your point, but you do know who they should talk to. So introduce them and help them get to know and use that network and create the sense of community of, there are so many opportunities in this organization, but it's overwhelming. So you've got to help guide them, right? And so it's definitely about, we help facilitate the initial part of the conversation and get them to commit to go have those conversations on a very regular basis to help put that in a cadence and a process, but they own it when we're done.
Thanks, Lisa. And Kathy, I know, State Street has a whole talent marketplace and your team really advocates. So can you just tell a little bit about how your team helps with that, that vastness of the organization, and where do you go for what and who do you talk to?
Yeah, sure. It's really all about understanding, the both sides of it, right? First, it's the employees that are looking for a change, or maybe there's been an organizational change that creates some their ability to kind of seek something else out. So we kind of created a construct where they're giving us a lot of information through their of course, their resume, their profile, tell us about your skills, like really going in and harvesting as much as we can know about those people. And then taking a look at the same time, what is our business telling us? What are those needs that they have? And what are those positions that are available? And doing that for really anyone that's interested to be able to say, we want you to stay here. So tell us about you, tell us what you're thinking about. And then having kind of like a third party that can tell you like, that maybe that isn't, you're going to really need a lot of development to get to that pivot. Or maybe this is, a natural next couple of steps. And so just really, to Lisa's point, it's a big company, right? So how do you help them navigate? So just being able to kind of take a list this big and make it a little bit smaller and make them think about their transferable skills and make them think about being willing to take classes on their own, maybe at night, maybe during the day, whatever it is, how much of a commitment do they want to make into their development to get to maybe what they're interested, and also what we think might be a good match for them. So a lot of what we do is to try to enable greater awareness of the employee of themselves, but then also how do they better market themselves? How do they articulate it? How do they take advantage of any opportunity, whether it's a networking, whether it's a 15-minute coffee chat, like how do they just continue to build that pipeline of connections with people that gives them better feel just about opportunities, but also about themselves. And so they enrich themselves, and then we work really tirelessly with the businesses to better understand, like I said before, not just what do you need now, but where are you going, what are those skills, and how do we make that connection happen?
Thanks, Kathy. And Jennifer, you're in a unique organization in the sense that you don't just have employees, but they're also your members. And so therefore even more of a community than most organizations. So tell us a little bit about what you have been doing.
Yes, we've been on a journey with this, and we encourage that every day, but also we built it into our practices and processes. So as we put in a new performance management process in 2020, we also have evolved to build in now those development conversations are just expected. And we give that time of year that you should be having it. So we're saying at the very least, we're expecting twice a year, you're having these good, rich career conversations. And then we're backing it up with the work that I was talking about earlier. We're also introducing, and we've been piloting and testing out a new framework to talk about talent, so that it's not just we had a talent review, we're all set, but really actively thinking about, does that person need to be accelerated? Do they need to deepen? Do they need to broaden? Do we need to talk about maybe what's next for them? Where do they go? And so we've been talking about that framework so that it's not just a one and done in talent review, but that we're actually having active work and development planning after that to ensure that we are helping that talent get to where it needs to go. And early days on this, but really seeing some great results from being able to help managers frame some of those conversations.
Thank you for that. And I think one of the key points of what you said there was that it's regular career conversations, right? Not just the annual performance review, but the regular conversations. And Kathy, you also really pointed out the importance of the manager's involvement with that, right? And understanding what their needs are. So it seems like we have a theme of, different ways to have talent. We attract the talent by recruiting it, right? We also can move the talent throughout, and then we can look at who we have and develop it according to the needs that we have as an organization. We're at the 10-minute mark, so I encourage people to just chime in if they have any questions. I think we're covering a lot of them along the way. When you think about 2023 and beyond, what is going to be your biggest focus as an organization for this year and into 2024? Who would like to start?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
And mine are not, I have thought about this question that you had posed, Kim, and to me, it kind of comes down to two things, and it's not specific items. It's really more, it's agility. I think we all learned after 2020, it's really hard to predict where things are going to go. And so how can we be nimble enough? And so I'd love to have been like, oh, this is my priority and this is my priority, but I've done that so many times and it changes. It's more how to be ready for the unexpected. And then it's also really like the integration. It's like, I think we have to kind of acknowledge people's full selves. And so how are we going to kind of integrate all components of our business, people bringing them their whole selves, just like all of that to kind of where we're headed. So I know those are very, very broad, but those are kind of like my two words that I constantly bring myself back to.
Agility. I always have a word of the year. My word this year is Teflon. But I love agility. That's a great one. Anne-Marie, let's go over to you. What's going to be your biggest focus, just to wrap it up?
That's so tough. It's hard to narrow it down. I think at Ventas, optimism is something that we value tremendously, as well as just really being mindful of that resilient aspect and collaboration. But I think if I were to focus on it, I think employee retention and development, if I were to narrow it down to where are we focused from an employee perspective, I just think it's continuing on the and this is the way I can plug Keystone, the advances we've made in a lot of our leadership development, where we are providing ways for our leaders to understand that we're investing in them, and that one of the privileges of being a leader is making sure that you really are situationally focused on what each one of your employees need to be able to retain them, develop them, engage them.
I love it because, we all focus on attracting new talent, but grooming the talent that you have. Kathy, you said the line, we want you to stay. So what can we do to help you stay? Lisa, let's just get your thoughts on this.
Well, we happen to have a new CEO starting next week.
Oh, wow.
And he has a strong focus on talent and people. And so we know some things are about to change in our talent strategy and our talent roadmap. But we also know that the focus on development that Anne-Marie just mentioned and doubling down on what that looks like. I think the piece that Kathleen mentioned earlier too about the marketplace, talent marketplace, is actually a top priority on our list of doing that and having it tech enabled in a different way and all the things, and tying the development and the marketplace together. And so it's all integrated with where we are and where the partners are and how do we accelerate all of that for everyone. But I cannot deny Michelle's word of agility. We have a series of initiatives that aren't just talent, but talent touches every single one of them. And we call it reinvention, reimagination. It's all kinds of, let's do it better, faster, stronger. And we're like, okay, go.
Excellent. I love it. Agility. Kathy, Jennifer.
No, I was just going to say, but Lisa, you have all that access to coffee. You should be
It's so true. Anytime I say I'm tired, they go, we have something for that.
Oh, that's great. Jennifer, any last minute comment?
Yeah, for us, it's really about, my team talks about making sure the talent is here and ready. And we're going to help our business know the talent and grow the talent. And if we do that really well, we feel like that's a win for everyone.
I think that's a great way to wrap up. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed this discussion. We probably could have spent a few more hours together. Everyone, I'm sure, will be happy to network with you. You can find them on LinkedIn. In the spirit of community and helping each other, let's pay it forward and continue to grow our own HR community. Thank you all. Appreciate it so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.